On the northern coast of Erukia, the equatorial subcontinent of the supercontinent Becerra, a dense jungle is nestled in a basin between the Cabalisian Mountains and a complex of isolated coastal ranges. The Northern Lowland Rainforest receives a staggering amount of precipitation from the tropical waters of the Agathe and Seas, averaging 480 millimeters of total monthly precipitation a year, though the Northern Hemisphere's spring is drier and the autumn is much wetter. The monthly average temperature is quite steady throughout the year, around 22 degrees Celsius at sea level. Much of the ecoregion is a tropical climate that is humid all year round, receiving at least 60 millimeters of precipitation in every month. A rain shadow caused by the coastal mountains limits the precipitation in parts of the region to less than 60 millimeters in the driest month, usually the Davian equivalent of February, creating an AM or tropical monsoon area. Elevations in the igneous uplands created by the accretion of island arcs and volcanic activity along the coast rise up above 750 meters, which are cool enough to create pockets of temperate, cool summer climate zones with no dry season, where the coldest month averages just below 18 degrees Celsius. The jungle is divided vertically into 4 levels: the forest floor, understory, canopy, and overstory, which is also referred to as the emergent layer. The main level is the canopy, where crowns of mature trees create a thick layer of leaves over the forest, which comprises the bulk of the rainforest biomass. Above the canopy is the overstory, where the tallest trees emerge above the surrounding forest. Beneath the canopy is the understory, made up of shade-tolerant shrubs, short or young trees, and vines. The bottom level is the forest floor, which is deeply shaded and receives only 1% of sunlight that penetrates the canopy. Here, herbs and seedlings grow amongst the leaf litter, fallen trees, dead animals, and droppings that are recycled into the nutrient-poor rainforest soil, only to be quickly taken up again by other organisms. Hello, and welcome to Lands Unknown for another entry of the Speculative Atlas. In this chapter, we will explore a handful of keystone flora and fauna species that inhabit the northern lowland rainforests. If you're new to the Speculative Atlas, there's a playlist that includes entries on the physical geography and other bioregions. If you enjoy the video, I would appreciate a like and a subscribe if you haven't already. And to support the channel and the continuation of the Speculative Atlas, you can leave a one-time donation on Ko-fi, or you can become a member on Patreon. Under the canopy, the forest floor shakes under the thunderous footfalls of northern Indriks browsing on foliage throughout the jungle. They are one of the largest species of Erukian fae, which is the common name for monotrematoforms, with fully grown individuals reaching between 5 and 6 meters tall at the shoulder and weighing 17 metric tons on average, though adult machos tend to be larger than hembras. Northern Indriks live in a stable matrilineal group that travels along a meandering circuit through their territory, which take years to complete. Each family is part of a larger matriclan that meets at regular intervals along their routes. Matriclans share a vocal dialect that they use to identify one another. What distinguishes Northern Indriks as ecosystem engineers is their strategy for accessing foliage in the canopy by purposefully toppling trees. They can reach leaves in the understory by rearing up on their hind legs and walking up tree trunks with their forelimbs to support themselves. Unstable, rotted, or diseased trees will fall under their weight, providing access to leaves that would otherwise be out of reach. This is a learned behavior taught by hembras to their crias. As a result, when a family of Indriks stops to feed, a clearing is opened in the canopy, and light floods the forest floor, which triggers metamorphora to proliferate as ground cover and establish new shrubs and trees, which encourages smaller herbivores to graze on the plentiful vegetation, and in turn attracts larger carnivores. The down trees are colonized by decomposers, and nutrients are cycled back into the soil to sustain new growth. Like other megaherbivores, northern Indriks require prodigious amounts of water, almost 50 gallons every day. Their thirst limits their feeding grounds to areas around the many lakes, rivers, and wetlands in the northern lowland rainforest, and, as a consequence, the circuits through their territory structure the ecoregion. Areas of the forests closest to surface water are frequently disturbed and characterized by herbs, shrubbery, and younger trees, with patches of mature forest and old growth further away, though as the courses of rivers change, these patches shift. Indriks are quite intelligent and form strong emotional bonds. When northern Indrik families intersect on their circuits, the dominant hembras greet one another and inaugurate the meeting. Reunited friends, family members, and past mating partners nuzzle and lean on one another while vocalizing together. Those who have passed away since they've last met are mourned with low rolling moans that reverberate through the rainforest, If the two groups are unrelated, then there is an opportunity for machos and hembras to mate. Northern Indriks will only mate if the prospective pair have different vocal dialects, and hembras will not mate while minding a cria. The macho will approach an available hembra and rear up for a few seconds, supporting the entirety of his weight on his hind legs. He repeats the display several times while vocalizing. If she is impressed, then she will allow the macho to mate. Persistent machos who continue advances on an unreceptive hembra are confronted by the machos from her family. A mating pair will spend much of their time together, but once the families are ready to move on, they will go their separate ways. Even though the father will not see his cria for several years, the mother will introduce them when they next meet, and they'll maintain a lifelong relationship. Hembras gestate a single egg for 10 months, after which she lays the egg in her pouch to incubate for another 2 to 4 months. Once the egg hatches, the hembra nurses the puggle in the pouch for 2 years. When the cria leaves the pouch, they are over a meter tall at the shoulder and weigh about 340 kilograms. Northern Indriks are the most vulnerable to predation as a cria, and spend the first few years close to their mother to deter green dragons and owlbears. A Northern Indrik reaches sexual maturity around 15 years old and breed until about 75, though they can live past 80, and families led by centurion matriarchs are not uncommon. Milk plants are a group of metamorphora that concentrate a milky white latex in the stem, fruit, and leaves. The most prolific species of this group, the Northern Lowland Rainforest, is the black milk plant, named for its dark green leaves. The latex deters consumption by large herbivores and wards off fungal infections. Unlike the rhizomatous prickle plants, black milk plants are stoloniferous and propagate through spreading runners from the stem over the soil. As a herb, the black milk plant is an evergreen vine that climbs nearby trees with sharp prickles formed from aerial roots. The herbaceous morphology is also an aggressive form of ground cover that spreads quickly over disturbed areas of the forest floor. The proliferation strategy allows the shrub form to establish itself throughout the undergrowth until a gap in the canopy emerges and the plant dedicates all its energy to the shoot receiving the most sunlight, which grows into a new tree. The trees have a pseudotrunk formed by aerial roots that thicken the stem and support continued growth. Prickles on these aerial roots form large, sharp spines to deter northern Indriks from pushing them over. Black milk trees play an important role in the ecoregion as homes for dragons and arboreal fae, which live in the cavities in the trunk and eat the fruits, seeds, or invertebrates that feed on the foliage. Every branch of a milk vine, shrub, or tree has overlapping whorls of waxy dark leaves. When a whorl is ready to secrete nectar, filaments grow from the inside of the leaves. These soft structures are coated in a fine layer of pollen and toxins deadly to invertebrate nectar robbers. Once the filaments are fully grown, fragrant nectar weeps from the base of the leaves to attract gloom sprites. After being pollinated, the leaves curl inwards and filaments pollinate the whorl's ovaries. The filaments fuse with the developing fruit, and when ripe, the leaves peel back to reveal the aggregate fruit composed of 3 segments, with latex-laced starchy flesh and large, black, oily seeds with a tough protective coating. The skin of the black milk fruits are yellow, though other species are orange or red. Overripe fruits have little residual latex and release a sweet aroma before dropping to the forest floor to attract predators as a secondary dispersion strategy. The Gloom Sprite has a close relationship with the milk trees. Found throughout the layers of the Northern Lowland Rainforest, glooms have a dark gray coloration to blend into the shadows of the understory and incandescent quills that reflect a pale green when struck by rays of sunlight. Adult glooms are smaller than raindrop sprites, averaging 18 centimeters from head to tail. Gloom sprites collect and deposit pollen as they fly into the whirl of milk plants to feed or sleep. In order to conserve energy, they frequently grab hold of the stem while feeding. Though glooms feed from the milk plant, they also frequent monomorphora species, like moon vines, which grow up the trunk of milk trees and mimic the aroma of milk plant nectar. Like other diurnal sprites, glooms enter nocturnal torpor to preserve energy. To prepare for torpor, they fly within larger whorls and grasp the stem with their wing and hind paws. Once settled, tendons lock their grip in place until they warm up in the morning. Despite their constant movement following the scent of milk plant nectar through the rainforest, gloom sprites are sedentary and tend to spend their whole life in a range that includes several milk plant graft communities. Upon arriving in a patch of nectar-secreting plants, these little sprites become extremely aggressive and carve out a feeding territory that they defend against all challengers with their long, sharp beak. In the middle of the dry season, female glooms, or pixies, fill small cavities up in the overstory of milk tree trunks with soft materials to make nests. Male glooms, or pucks, court mates by dancing in sunny patches of the canopy to catch the light on their iridescent quills. They attempt to find as many partners as possible before the end of the dry season. The mother incubates her 2 eggs for a couple weeks, then nurses her puggles for a month. After the puggles fledge, the mother leaves the nest for her young to use as a roost, until the fragrant smell of nectar lures them away. Sturges are a large, diverse class of invertebrates that live across the supercontinent of Becerra. They possess an exoskeleton, 6 eyes, and 8 limbs. The ancestor of all contemporary sturges developed power to flight from silky gills, and the adult stage of many species possesses delicate wings, though several groups have neotenized or otherwise lost the ability to fly. Sapsuckers are a herbivorous group of sturges that, as their name suggests, feed on foliage and sap. Most sapsuckers in the Northern Lowland Rainforest are monophagous, which means their diet consists of a single plant species as a form of niche partitioning. Gemstone sap-sucking sturges, with their indigo carapaces and banded orange limbs, feed only on black milk plants. They cut between the vessels that transport latex through the stem and leaves to consume the sap through a proboscis. Gemstones are eaten by smaller predatory dragons, insectivorous fae, and carnivorous sturges. Adult gemstone sapsuckers lay sticky egg sacs within the whorls of black milk plants, which hatch into nymphs that resemble a wingless adult with a shorter metastoma, or tail. Over successive instars, the gemstone nymphs develop longer tails, until eventually molting into a winged adult. An adult male sapsucker initiates mating by catching and subduing a potential mate and forcing her to land. He then uses his tail to transfer sperm from a gonopore located on his abdomen to the female sapsucker's epigynum, located at the base of her tail. Male rivals may attempt to pry him away during the process, so he grips tighter with his serrated forearms. After her epigynum is fertilized, the male sapsucker releases the female sapsucker to find a suitable whorl to deposit her egg sac. The great horned blue dragon lives among the branches of tall milk trees throughout the northern lowland and highland rainforests. While they stand 50 centimeters at the shoulder, adult great horns are slightly smaller on average than yellow crests, and have more rounded wings suitable for maneuvering through the rainforest canopy. The darker coloration of their pelts provides camouflage in the deep shadows cast by the density of foliage. While the white crests and tail ribbon stripes were developed as disruptive markings to break up their silhouette, these now play an important role in sexual selection. The milky latex in the fruits that make up the majority of their diet are stored in their toxungin gland or sequestered in their feces. Great horns are the primary seed disperser for milk plants, and their latex-rich droppings protect the seeds from predation. Most animals clear out beneath a union of great horns gorging on milk tree fruits. Like other dragons, they can store enough toxin for about 20 uses, which they use to deter predators, defend their nests, and for intraspecific competition. The noxious latex causes a severe burning sensation on contact. When large milk plants consisting of several trees release nectar to attract Gloom Sprites, they send a chemical signal to other milk plants grafted to them, which triggers those plants to release nectar as well. Great horns migrate through their territories over the year, following the abundance created by these coordinated fruiting events. Besides milk tree fruits, great horns also eat the overripe fruits from other kinds of metamorphora trees and a variety of nuts produced by species of spire trees. Unions of 1 to 3 dozen great horns roost together in old milk trees, which have a good number of cavities amongst the aerial roots for nests. Great horns are monogamous, and bonded pairs frequently last a lifetime. Ahead of the dry season, mating pairs lay 2 or 3 eggs and coat them in their toxungin to ward off ovivores. The wormlings stay in the nest for the dry season and fledge when the rains return in May. Juveniles reach sexual maturity at 4 years old, when they will court a mate. Great horned blue courtship involves raising their tail ribbons and shaking them down while showing off their horned crests and spitting to impress. After 2 great horns pair, they join the union that leaves for the next fruiting event, flying so close that their wing claws are almost touching. Throughout the northern lowland rainforest, the canopies of mighty milk, redbark, and prickle trees are alight with sparks of red, yellow, and orange. Burning branches are a group of herbaceous monomorphoric epiphytes, which evolved from a species of metamorphora adapted to arid environments with poor, fast-draining substrates. Roots that evolved to hold fast in loose sediment or impermeable surfaces help the ancestor of the burning branch cling to trees and shrubs. While primarily grown on larger, woody plants along the northern coast, burning branches can also be found clinging to a variety of surfaces, like exposed rocky outcrops of the igneous massifs and isolated ranges. Burning branches propagate through seed dispersal and attach leaves or stems. The latter form of propagation is triggered by environmental disturbances, like tropical storms or animal interactions that damage the plant. Leaves or stems that break off can establish their own roots and grow a new burning branch. Through this method, plants in the emergent layer can quickly spread down through the canopy and understory. Whenever a burning branch has stored enough energy, the plant secretes nectar from the whorls at the end of its stems. The aromatic compounds attract short-beaked sprites, including raindrops. Once pollinated, the stem grows, and the fruit forms around it within the whorl. The fruit is segmented radially into several pods. The exact number depends on the species. Each pod contains many small, black seeds connected to long, fluffy hairs, called lint. When the pods burst open, these fibers act as parachutes and carry the seed on the wind. After releasing the seeds, the shells break off and a new rosette of leaves grow from the revealed segment of the stem. The foliage of burning branches shifts from a pale orange to yellow, then red or brown over time. Many animals eat the oily seeds, including blue dragons and brownies. The lint is a useful nesting material, and some species of burning branches create an abundance of soft fibers that encourage dragons and fae to pluck the whole lint ball and spread the seeds as bedding. Sturges are the primary predator of burning branches, though Yales and brownies feed on the leaves of plants growing on rocks or logs on the forest floor. The redbark plant is an important source of food for the fauna of the Northern Lowland Rainforest. Like the prickle plant, the redbark plant is rhizomatous and exhibits the same kind of secondary growth. Woody shoots from the rhizome wind around the trunk and fuse with the tree to provide support. The knotted pattern of overlapping and bifurcating woody stems creates many cavities for smaller fauna to shelter and epiphytes to root. The herbaceous form, characterized by 3 large evergreen leaves, thrives in wet soils. The shrub consists of several woody shoots, which frequently bifurcate from the main stem and grow upwards. Redbark shrubs become trees when a gap opens in the canopy. While the leaves of the herb grow from a green shoot, the foliage of the trees and shrubs grow directly from the woody stem. Much of the redbark plant is rich in tannins to defend against predation, though many animals have evolved strategies to digest the leaves. For example, minotaurs have developed rumens that can process tannoids. When a redbark triggers a whorl to grow reproductive structures, pollen filaments bud from the inside of the leaves. Once the pollen filaments are fully mature, tannic nectar seeps from the center of the whorl to attract sprites. The unripe drupes contain a higher concentration of tannins to deter frugivores until the seeds have fully matured. Many species include the seeds and overripe fruits in their diets, so graft communities of redbark plants stagger pollination to ensure fruits are constantly ripening in order to keep mutualistic blue dragons nearby. Glimmer Sprites sequester tannins from the nectar they drink, over 6 times their body weight, from redbarks and other kinds of tannic flora, in their iridescent quills, which makes them appear brown in the deep shadows of the canopy, but glitter orange and yellow when struck by sunflecks. The tannins in glimmer quills are unpalatable to predators, and pixies tend to have higher concentrations, which makes them darker than pucks, who are lighter and have longer tails than tail quills. Some species of sprites that don't feed on tannic flora have adopted the coloration of glimmers to deter predation. For such small Erukian fae, 35 centimeters long from the tip of the beak to the end of the tail, though the tail is over half the overall length, glimmer sprites are quite intelligent. Each individual keeps track of the whorls they have recently visited, so they know when they can feed on them again, and they also predict when whorls will secrete nectar based on the color of the leaf filaments. Since they invest so much energy in their territories, they defend their patch of the canopy ferociously. Duels between glimmers are a blur of yellow quills that last less than 30 seconds. The fencing sprites stab at one another with their long sharp beaks while relying on their deft aerobatics to dodge their opponent. One of the combatants usually withdraws and cedes the territory before serious injury, but deaths aren't uncommon. Glimmers opportunistically roost in the small cavities of redbark trees for their nocturnal torpor. But during the mating season, pixies build nests where they will nurse their puggles. Pucks court pixies in the overstory in the wet season during the rare days that the clouds part. Pixies establish a pecking order. The stronger, mature individuals have priority, and perch in the crown of emergent trees to watch pucks dive past, cartwheeling and rolling above the canopy so the sunlight glitters on their long tails. When the pixie with priority sees a puck she likes, she joins in his aerobatic display. Sometimes younger pixies challenge the order and duel for a higher position, but if she fails, then she loses her chance to mate for the day. Like glooms, Glimmer Sprites incubate their eggs for 2 weeks and then nurse their puggles for a month. Nursing pixies feed on over 10 times their body weight in nectar a day and are notoriously aggressive, even for glimmers. While they have puggles in their nest, a mother pixie will never withdraw from a duel. During the coordinated fruiting events of redbark graft communities, the canopy is quickly filled by unions of petal-crested blue dragons that descend on the trees in their hundreds. They eat small fruits, primarily from redbarks and other tannic berries or drupes, but also pollen filaments and seeds. Petal crests are small blues with a striking teal coloration. Adults stand 15 centimeters tall at the shoulder and are half a meter long, although their tail ribbons make up half their length. Despite their size, adults still possess about 20 uses of their toxungin, which is a dark stream of concentrated tannic acid that causes painful irritations on contact with the skin in addition to blurred vision if it touches the eyes. Petal crests and other small blues have many predators, including carnivorous arboreal fae, as well as red and black dragons, so they are easily startled and spray with little provocation, which is amplified by their tendency to engage in a behavior known as contagious spitting. If one petal crest spits, nearby individuals will quickly spray in the same direction. Petal crests lay 3 to 5 eggs and incubate them for 3 weeks. After hatching, the wormlings take a month and a half to fledge, then stay in their parents' union, at least until they reach sexual maturity, around a year and a half old. Unions are commonly composed of a bonded pair and 2 clutches of their young, but unions can be larger family groups composed of up to 6 bonded pairs and their clutches, though unrelated bonded pairs also form unions. When multiple unions come together, unpaired adults gather to court. The mating display of petal-crested blues involves ruffling their fluffy white chest filaments while waving their tail ribbons in the air as they hop along a branch. When 2 dragons are interested in one another, they spit their toxungin in synchronized arcs before dancing together to seal the bond. Freshly bonded pairs form new unions with their peers, though if not enough pairs bonded, the couple joins one of their parents' unions, usually the one with fewer members. While all dragons possess well-developed nictitating membranes or third eyelids to protect their eyes from noxious toxungins and purge the chemicals, petal crests are gregarious blues that frequently spit at one another to communicate displeasure or annoyance, which they can do more often because they spray each other with smaller amounts than they would use to deter predators. Young adults that frequently agitate their fellows end up with many dark purple stains on their white and teal coats, which makes them less appealing partners while courting. Spriggans are arboreal fae closely related to sprites. The Bushy-Tailed Spriggan is a nocturnal carnivore that eats sturges, small vertebrates like petal crests, unintended young like sprite puggles or wormlings, and eggs. The bushy-tail's sensitive nose allows them to tell if a dragon egg has been recently coated with its parent's toxungin, so they know the best time to poach a nest. Adult bushy-tailed spriggans are a meter long from the tip of their beak to the end of their tails, with their tails making up half their length. Their entire bodies are covered in sharp, keratinous quills, except for the softer fur on their bellies and cheeks. Bushy-tails use their quills to produce stridulations, for warning predators and intraspecific communication. While dark brown in the shade of the understory or canopy, the quills are iridescent in the light and reflect a variety of colors to disrupt their outlines and distract predators, primarily dragons. The quills help intercept dragon toxungin, which is useful for raiding nests. Bushy-tail pucks have brighter quills that they use for display to attract mates, while the quills of pixies produce louder stridulations. Bushy-tails live for up to 12 years. They are continuous breeders and reach sexual maturity at a year old. Bushy-tailed pixies seeking a mate climb into the overlayer at dusk, dawn, or nights with a full moon, and stridulate their quills to attract potential suitors, who risk the jaws of red and black dragons to answer the call and display their iridescent quills by waving their tails back and forth above their heads to catch the light. If a suitor is successful, the couple mates. Bushy-tailed mothers construct their nests from twigs, leaves, and soft fibers, like burning branchulent, in cavities amongst the spines of milk trees or the knotted trunks of redbarks. They prefer chambers large enough to construct decoy entrances to confuse potential predators. 1 or 2 eggs develop in utero for 4 weeks, then are laid in the nest and incubated by their mother for 10 days. The father often nests nearby and provides warning stridulations for his mate until the eggs hatch, when a hungry mother, Bushy-Tailed, drives him from her hunting territory. After hatching, the Spriggan puggles are nursed for 5 months. Weaned Bushy-Tails stay in their birth nest for another 2 months. Daughters establish their territories near their mother and may even inherit her nest, while young pucks travel further afield. Within the canopy of the rainforest, bonded pairs of black-booted red dragons glide together searching for their next meal. Red dragons are closely related to black dragons, though they're usually smaller. An adult black boots averages 40 centimeters at the shoulder. In addition to their color, several features distinguish red from black dragons. All reds possess superciliary fins, which they can raise or lower with a cartilage spine. These fins are used for interspecific communication. Flattened fins indicate surprise and aggression, while raised fins indicate excitement and playfulness. They also have at least 2 longer tail ribbons that end in fans, rackets, or other structures, and black boots are no exception. They have 2 long black ribbons tufted with soft plumes that develop when the dragon reaches sexual maturity. Finally, black dragons tend to have broader wings, while red dragons have more rounded wings for enhanced maneuverability, which helps black-booted reds thrive in the Northern Lowland Rainforest. The species' common name refers to the dark fibers covering their feet up to their ankles. While red dragons possess robust legs, they catch and dispatch their prey with their powerful jaws, usually a single bite to the head or neck. Black boots commonly hunt sprites, sturges, arboreal fauna like spriggans, smaller herbivorous dragons like petal-crests, and juvenile yellow crests or great horns. Red dragons hunt in pairs, usually in bonded couples, but they form strike pairs with related or neighboring juveniles and adults. When hunting, one partner attempts an ambush, and if it fails, then it spits and flushes the prey towards the other red, ready and wait to dive upon the target. Experienced couples can successfully take down larger adult blues, which are twice their weight. Like other predatory dragons, adult reds possess around 20 uses of their toxungin for deterrence, competition, and hunting. The toxin is a noxious alkaloid that acts as a localized, painful paralytic. Spitting on the wing of a prey dragon causes the elastic tendons in the patagium to seize, severely hampering its ability to fly. Black boots live in family unions that include a bonded pair and their juveniles, and are social with neighboring unions. Red dragons are dedicated parents, and while eggs or wormlings are in the nest, the mother or father is always present, each taking turns to hunt while the other guards their young. Mothers lay 2 or 3 eggs after mating at the beginning of the dry season, which are incubated for a month. Wormlings fledge after a month and a half and then stay with their parents for 6 months. The juvenile clutch leaves the nest together, roosting nearby until they reach sexual maturity at 1 or 2 years old, when they go their separate ways in search of a mate. Black Boots courtship involves a prospective couple sharing aerobatic maneuvers back and forth, then combining their patterns and performing them in unison repeatedly at closer and closer distances until the two are nearly touching. These sky dances demonstrate each partner's aerial agility and their coordination, which are valuable skills for a successful union. Elbow-horned Yales are smaller relatives of the savanna longhorns who live at the edge of disturbed patches in the rainforest, where they graze on abundant ground cover and seek shelter in the undergrowth. Adults stand 80 centimeters at the shoulder and weigh between 50 and 90 kilograms. Elbow horns use their knobby bends of their horns for interspecific competition, while the sharp points are reserved for predator deterrence. The deep red of their coat resembles the woody stems of redbark plants, and they possess tannin-binding proteins in their saliva that helps them digest tannic flora. Their diet includes a range of vegetation, including herbs, pollen filaments, and foliage from shrubs and young trees. In addition, they opportunistically eat small fruits that fall to the forest floor. Elbow horns live between the mature forest, where gaps in the canopy allow herbs and low shrubs to grow, and disturb patches that northern Indriks have cleared. They travel in distinct doe herds, which include several related generations, and buck herds of unrelated individuals led by a single, mature buck who urinates at the edges of his territory. Elbow horns are opportunistic breeders. When buck and doe herds congregate in large meadows within recently disturbed patches of the rainforest, the concentration of mature bucks triggers a rut. First, the bucks prance about the clearing while displaying their facial shields. Then, the mature bucks square off and fight, swinging their necks to land blows with a bend in their horns. Victorious bucks present themselves to the available does, while losers retreat to the undergrowth to lick their wounds. Does gestate their eggs for 7 weeks, then incubate their eggs for 10 days. The twin puggles hatch into their mother's pouch and nurse for 5 months before the fawns emerge. They spend the first 2 years in their maternal herd. Then, young bucks are drawn away by markings from mature bucks, while does stay with their mothers their whole lives. When the eldest doe passes away, her daughters compete for control of the herd. Elbow horns that reach adulthood usually live for 10 years, but some can reach 15. The Conch-Nosed Brownie receives its name from the bumps at the front of its facial shield, which protects 2 large resonating chambers connected to the nasal passage. Calls produced with these chambers can be heard kilometers away. Conch-Nosed Brownie adults are 70 centimeters tall at the shoulder and weigh 40 to 75 kilograms. Conch-noses nest in mature patches of the forest, where hollows and old-growth trees provide ample shelter. While closely related species are gregarious, Conch-Nosed Brownies are solitary but social. Individuals forage alone or in pairs. They walk on the knuckles of their forelimbs to protect their sharp claws, which they primarily use to dig up their preferred foods, roots, and tubers. Though, they also eat a variety of tender foliage, overripe fruits, and sturges. Conch-noses breed throughout the year. Sows lay a clutch of 3 or 4 eggs after a month of gestation, then incubate for another 2 weeks. When the puggles hatch, mothers nurse several times a day, and rotate between foraging for food and returning to care for their young for 4 months. As long as there are puggles in the nest, the dominant bull is nearby, ready to intimidate predators with a nasal call or drive off raiders with his claws. Juveniles accompany their mothers outside the nest until they reach maturity at 18 months old. At night, Conch-Nosed Brownies return to matrilocal nests. Once juvenile boars reach maturity, they're evicted and search for a nest of unrelated sows to join. As itinerant bulls wander through the rainforest, they periodically make nasal calls, to which all bulls' notatory range respond. The resonating calls create a sound map of territories in the rainforest and indicate which areas may have available nests. While bulls do not usually tolerate sharing a sow herd, they do form alliances with other individuals. In the Northern Lowland Rainforest, the last sight of many animals is a pair of glowing, yellow eyes, peering from the darkness of the undergrowth, and a flash of vibrant blue ribbons. Sapphire-Tailed green dragons are the apex predator of the tropical rainforests along the northern coast, that thrive in the patchwork of disrupted clearings and secondary growth produced by northern Indriks. They are only 1.5 meters at the shoulder, which is shorter than the closely related golden-tailed green dragon. Their smaller, elongated bodies have adapted to maneuvering through the forest floor and climbing in the understory. An adult Sapphire-Tail's wingspan averages 7 meters, though they can change the shape of their wing by flexing the elastic tendons running through their patagium in tandem with their third finger and styloform wrist bone to significantly change the shape of their wing for soaring above the jungle or maneuvering in clearings or open forest. Like golden-tailed greens, the toxungin gland of Sapphire-Tails produces a noxious cocktail of acids and blister agents for hunting, intraspecific competition, coating eggs, and defense. Their diet consists of large terrestrial fae, like elbow horns and conch noses, as well as minotaur pups and Indrik crias, though they sometimes stalk low branches that support their weight to catch blue dragons. They are more solitary than other greens. Unless teaching a juvenile, they prefer to hunt alone. Sapphire-Tails prefer to ambush isolated prey from above. In clearings, they dive on an unsuspecting target, or in the secondary and mature forests, they pounce from tree trunks. Once an animal is in their powerful jaws, they kill with a crushing bite to the neck. If their quarry is among a herd, They spit their toxungen to panic the group and pick off a member in the confusion. At first glance, the vivid blue crest and train of tail ribbons for which the dragons are named may seem like a poor adaptation for an ambush hunter. However, the blues in the Sapphire-Tailed ribbons are created by structural coloration. In the low light conditions found beneath the canopy, the tail appears dark, almost black. Since these dragons hunt from above, potential prey observing from below interpret flashes of blue caused by sunflecks striking the ribbons as openings in the canopy or one of the many species of non-threatening blue dragons passing overhead. Sapphire-tailed green dragon unions lair in caves among the coastal massifs and ranges, rocky outcrops within the jungle, or the hills and mountains of the Cavalesians. An established union lays one egg every 2 or 3 years. Both parents coat the egg in their toxungen and tend the nest during the 2-month incubation period. Wormlings fledge after 6 months, and the parents take turns hunting. Once the juvenile dragon can fly, it joins one parent or the other when they leave the lair. Over the next 14 to 18 months, the young sapphire-tail becomes increasingly independent until it leaves the lair and settles nearby. At 6 years old, the dragon sexually matures, growing a full train of blue ribbons, and begins to search for a mate. A breeding union's territory tends to be quite large, over 400 square kilometers, where an individual subadult inhabits a range of less than 200 square kilometers. When one member of a union dies, the survivor's mating call initiates a dragon storm. Sapphire-tails of the opposite sex compete for a chance to mate, while those of the same sex try to unseat the established dragon, and young unions from the periphery fight to seize the territory. Over the course of a week, the dragons duel throughout the range. Most fights are over before they start. Adults in their prime with lustrous tails full of long ribbons cow younger competitors or weakened opponents. But peer rivals have much to lose, and fight tooth, claw, and toxin to claim a territory and a mate for themselves. This chapter reviewed prominent plants and animals in the Northern Lowland Rainforest, including 2 groups of metamorphlora and 1 species of monomorphlora, a variety of herbivores from tiny sap-sucking sturges to the mighty northern Indrik, and carnivores like the nest-raiding Bushy-Tailed Spriggan and majestic sapphire-tailed green dragon. The next entry in the Speculative Atlas will explore a broader diversity of meta and monomorphlora on Erukia, from the southern temperate rainforests to the hanging valleys of the Turungian Plateau and the oases of the lower desert basin to the dry shrublands of the Aphrodisian coast. This video was more ambitious than my last one, and it took me much longer to make than I anticipated. I want to give a thank you to all my patrons, and a shout out to my new patrons since the last video, Adventurer Ramasakis and Explorer James. If you would like to support the creation of the Speculative Atlas and Exploring Lands Unknown, then you too can become a member of the Speculative Geographers Guild over at Patreon, where you can receive behind-the-scenes updates, sneak peeks for the next video, and even help shape the future of the channel. The Flora of Erukia video was chosen by guild members. If you cannot get enough Lands Unknown, there's a weekly live stream every Sunday, and I have several sessions planned for the World Building Festival over the first weekend in September. That's all for this video, and I look forward to exploring the Flora of Erukia with you next time.